Apple just showed off the brand new iPadOS 15, and in this video, we're not only gonna test out some of the best new features, I will also show you some features that they didn't talk about that make a world of a difference with your iPad experience, especially with the new iPad Pros. But we'll also talk about some major disappointments and issues with iPadOS, some things that were not fixed, some other issues, and a couple big ones that literally might not make it worth having one of these new M1 iPad Pros. So let's start out with something very simple and lighthearted, but this was a major issue. With the new iPadOS 15 killer feature, we have vertical iPhone apps, so you no longer have to take your iPad off, rotate it to see, or kind of turn your head. You can actually see the app the proper way, and you can maximize it like this so it fills up more of the screen. And the next groundbreaking new feature that we've really asked for is the app library. See, it's always stuck here in your dock, and you can open up and these apps are automatically sorted for you to find them easily. So of course, I'm just having a little bit of fun here, guys. That was added. I don't think we need that. Let me show you how to remove it. You can go into your home screen and dock settings, tap show app library and dock, and just like that, it is gone, just in case you don't want it there. Now, the next one is legitimately nice to have, and this is an update we should have had, and this really harnesses the M1 performance in this iPad Pro, and that is widgets. Before, we only had it on the left-hand side. Now widgets could be placed anywhere you want, just like Android had about 10 years ago. But this is actually a legitimately cool function where you can go in, you have a bunch of widgets here, you can search. We have brand new ones for Mail, you have ones for Game Center if you want to add them. They're nice and large. Find My is definitely going to be useful if you want to track where your items are, if they're nearby, and especially the Files app. This one definitely could be nice, so you don't have to go into there. You can literally just add it to wherever you want. Let's go ahead and move that to a separate page. So this is legitimately a great addition. You can set up one screen for productivity. You can have a calendar, stocks, anything else you want there. Another page for gaming, entertainment, and it does make the iPad a lot more productive. Now this next one is a killer one that Apple did not mention. Let's go ahead and plug in my external SSD. And let me go into my Files app. And this was a huge frustration for a lot of people. Now, let me tell you guys, there's still a lot of issues with Files app that I will talk about in just a bit. But one of the benefits is that we now finally get a progress bar when we are transferring files. Let me tell you how frustrating that is to not see how long it's gonna take. Here we have this typical app kind of a progress bar, but then we can go in and get even more info. So here I can finally see, one, how much data is being transferred, how far I'm at, and how much longer it's gonna take for that transfer to happen. Yesterday I was waiting 10 or even more minutes hoping for it to finish, and I'm just sitting there waiting, not knowing how long it's gonna take. That has been extreme frustration, so finally that has been fixed. Now, one thing I'm extremely curious about is the performance with iPadOS 15. If you guys saw our previous video where the same exact drive connected to an M1 iPad Pro with Thunderbolt, it took way longer than connected to a MacBook to transfer the same exact files. That was a frustration. It takes a while. So I'm actually gonna be doing a separate video going over performance of iPadOS 14 versus 15. We're not only gonna look at transfer speeds, we're gonna see if new drives are able to connect. We'll also compare the performance with certain apps that were actually slower with the M1 iPad Pro than with the older 2020 iPad that had the A12Z processor, and general performance such as Geekbench and other programs as well. So if you guys wanna see that video, go ahead and click that subscribe button down below. And with that, you can help us reach our goal of 1 million subscribers before the end of this year. We would greatly appreciate it. The next legitimately exciting feature are web extensions, and not the basic ones that we already have that you can download, but full featured web extensions where it works just like on your Mac. It has a lot more control. So this is gonna be exciting. Finally, we're gonna have decent Safari support just like we have on macOS. Next, we have on-device Siri that also works offline. This means your audio stays on your iPad and it works faster. Set a timer for 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
There you go. Believe it or not, that would not work before unless you were connected to the internet. So Siri is getting faster and smarter, and I have been starting to use it more so, and this will definitely help with that. For these next ones, let's attach the Magic Keyboard, and the first ones that I want to show off are the new commands with a full-size full-featured keyboard. So as you guys can see, we can switch between apps, but now we have this little option where you hold down Command and it gives you a full list of keyboard shortcuts. Now, this isn't just to remind you how to do simple things. In a lot of apps, there are so many keyboard shortcuts and different options that you don't see just by using the app alone. You guys look through LumaFusion here, how much different awesome options that we have, and you don't have to actually use the shortcut. You can open this up and then select, oh, I want to add a voiceover. Bam, select that. All of a sudden, now we're getting ready to do our voiceover. That is amazing, and it's gonna make apps, especially these higher end ones, so much easier to use and learn. And then we have the groundbreaking universal control, which was actually talked about during the Mac section, and that allows you to literally wirelessly, without any setup, move a cursor from your Mac to your iPad and back. Now, as you guys can see, it is not currently working with this first beta version, but Apple showed it off and literally it's like magic. Now, not only can you do that to access different apps and use two screens, which you could just already use Sidecar on your Mac if you're just using your Mac, but if you're drawing, if you're creating on the iPad, you can drag whatever that is directly into macOS, drop it, and it transfers instantly. And this is just what is so awesome about having the Apple ecosystem. Now, that also tells us that Apple doesn't really want the iPad to be an all-in-one device. They want you to have an iPad Pro for $2,000, maybe a MacBook for $1,500, maybe even an iMac as well for when you're at your desk. They want you to spend as much money as possible. Of course, they are a company that makes a lot of money, but that just kind of shows you their direction. Before I show you what I think is probably the coolest new feature, let's talk about multitasking. It's not really a new feature. This is a fix, probably what we should have had right at the gate. It's so much easier to use now. For example, we have LumaFusion opened up right here. Instead of having stuff in the dock pulling and it doesn't work very well, literally you could tap at the top, bam, and you can see we can slide it over one side another, or even more simple, just drag it down, it moves over, select the other thing you want to have, bam, we're all set up right there. And then you can also go in, this is another great way to do it. You have a couple multitasking set up right here. Let's say we want to go settings with iMovie, and then you can actually just come in, grab an app that you want, place it right over another app, bam, very easy, very quick to use. You can go over and switch over to other ones. This is just how it should have been out of the gate. Very simple, very easy, and much more usable. And now probably the coolest, legitimately new feature that elevates the iPad way more from the MacBook now is the new quick note function. You just pull down from that corner right away. You can write anything you want. Let's see, my handwriting is terrible. You can write that, and then as soon as you're done, you can just pull it away, bam, it is gone, and it saves to a special function. And what's even cooler is when you're researching, you can actually pull it up, you can write a note, you can add the link to where you're at. If you highlight text and then you add that to your quick note, when you later go back to that and you actually click on the link, it will go to that page and it will actually have that highlighted to show you exactly where that is at that section. And what's even cooler is that when you go later to visit a page that you were writing notes on, researching, whatever, and you go to that exact page, that note will pop up right here for you to see what you wrote, what you were writing down on there. It is just saved, and this is system-wide. So for people that like taking notes, not only do we have these features, Notes is a lot more powerful. You have collaboration tools now. You can update and tag somebody. It is awesome. And that is it for the best new features. Let's go ahead and put the Magic Keyboard away. I know that list wasn't that big. You might have been expecting more, and I think a lot of us from the Apple event, from WWDC, we were expecting more from iPadOS 15, especially with these new M1 MacBook Pro. So let's talk about the issues that iPadOS has. Now, the biggest one, what a lot of us are waiting for, are actual Pro apps for this Pro tablet, such as Final Cut or Xcode. Now, I know some of you guys say, hey, this is not a laptop replacement. Apple doesn't want it to be. This is an iPad that can do a lot of things, but you should also own a Mac. And although I think it'd be cool if it can have Final Cut and Xcode, I wish those apps would come, especially with 16 gigs of RAM and stuff on this machine. I'm not asking for a full laptop replacement or full Mac OS. Even just fixes to certain issues that still have not been fixed would be great. For example, this is one I thought would definitely get fixed with this new hardware and this new Thunderbolt port, and that is being able to use whatever drive you want to connect. Now, we had issues with our Thunderbolt drive here. Some work, some don't. And unfortunately, with this new beta, we can go into the Files app, and this Thunderbolt drive still does not show up in the Files app, whereas my other one does. So I can't use it. Let's plug this other drive into here. You'll see that it came up here on the left-hand side. I can access my files on here, but there's nothing that I could do to completely erase it, change the format. I could just delete things that are actually on the drive itself. Now, another issue is not being able to eject your SSDs, and I think that's very important. Apple says, and people are saying, that you just eject it whenever you want to, you just pull it out. But I've actually had recently 2 corruption issues where I eject the drive and then I go to plug it back in and it doesn't show up. I had that yesterday as well with this iPad, and then I have to go to a laptop, a MacBook, plug it in, and then run the first aid software that can fix a drive. It takes about 10 minutes to go through and fix it. So that would be great to have that option, just so you know that it's ejected and there aren't going to be any issues. Now, this next one is a big deal for me personally. I don't know about you guys, but when I'm being productive, I like to listen to music in the background, or for example, a podcast.
20,
and you can do certain things like having it play in the background and, you know, browse the web, as long as there's no autoplay music or ads or anything that turns on. And for example, yesterday I was doing some video editing, and as soon as you actually start playing your video, that background audio completely shuts off. You can no longer listen to a podcast and go through and cut footage, do things like that. Now, of course, you can multitask, but even here, if you keep YouTube open or whatever and you start playing back your footage, bam, that is paused. There's no way to have 2 separate audio sources playing at the same time like you could on a Mac. You know, lower down your volume for your background music, do some editing, do some whatever else you're doing that might have audio in it. It just automatically disables it. The same thing with picture-in-picture mode. As soon as you start playing back another source of audio, that gets shut off. And this is just one example. If you're browsing the web, you know, there's the autoplay ad or something else plays, you want to quickly turn something on, it just gets canceled out. And this next one we for sure thought was going to get fixed. When these new machines came out, this was an issue, and people were just saying, just wait for iPadOS 15. It's right around the corner. We're gonna get this Pro iPad, it's gonna work properly. And that is external display support. Even with this new machine, when you plug it in, it still does not fill that whole screen of this crazy expensive display. I'm really not sure why this wasn't added. Apple's busy adding different eye colors for different emojis, so you can swap that. You can, you know, send pictures of your dog from your Apple Watch, stuff like that. But yeah, $2,000 tablet actually connecting properly to a display without these black bezels is not really an option. And of course, with that, if they're not able to give us that, you still can't use your iPad in clamshell mode. So if you buy an iPad, it works for almost everything you do or everything. You want to connect it to an external keyboard, trackpad, or mouse and a display and work in that way. It is also not an option. It just shuts off. You cannot use it that way like you can, you know, a $900 MacBook Air. And then the last one that I have that a lot of people were hoping on, especially professionals that love this beautiful mini LED display that is ultra bright for HDR content, is being able to use it connected to your Mac to edit your footage and view it in HDR. This for $1,100, even if you're just buying it for the display alone, is great. Instead of buying a $5,000, $6,000 display, you can use this. At least that was what the hope was. But no, you still cannot view HDR content on it through Sidecar, and that's a part of iPadOS. Even if you connect it through Thunderbolt, the cable, as soon as you bring footage onto it, it just plays back in regular SDR, not HDR. And same thing with Final Cut, when you connect to it, you do not have that option like you do with Apple's Pro display. So it kind of seems like Apple does not want people to be able to buy these tablets for the ability to maximize, this display and actually use it to its potential, which is editing HDR content or even HDR photos. They want you to buy that very expensive HDR display, the 6K XDR that they sell. And that is definitely a major bummer for those that bought this thinking, hey, we can actually use this with Sidecar. It's going to work great. This is an awesome solution Apple is providing. Well, that is not what iPadOS 15 is offering us. So there you guys go. We have some legitimately great features that can help day to day speed things up, improve your experience, give us capabilities that make it much easier to use, and also some major issues that still have not been fixed that ruin the experience on the iPad, even if you spend a ton for this crazy powerful M1 iPad Pro. Let me know your guys' thoughts. And once again, if you guys want to see that performance comparison between iPadOS 14 and iPadOS 15, the external drives, general performance, make sure you guys click that circle above to subscribe, and that will help us reach 1 million subscribers before the end of the year. We would greatly appreciate it. This has been Max, and I'll see you in the next video.